somebody that obviously has that dream is Jon Lancaster. Jon, welcome.
Hello, good evening.
Hi, how are you doing?
I'm very well, thanks. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Now, I saw your Twitter today, and you were talking about these GP2 supercars to join Formula One. First off, let's hit the ground running and see what your opinion is on that.
I think it's quite a ridiculous idea, as you'll probably see by the tweet. I think, there's a much simpler, or in my eyes, what will be a simpler option is just the way they've been going. They need to keep the small teams going, but make it a bit of a fairer distribution of the money and make it so they've got a fair fighting chance of some sort of progression. At the minute it's way too one-sided.
It certainly is way too one-sided, and I think obviously the finances are something that's really pushing these smaller teams out. Now, with the prospect of this three-car team, first of all, I'd like to know your opinion, but also, do you think for somebody like you, a third car with some of these bigger teams, does that open up opportunities for, somebody like you to drive?
I believe it's got pluses and minuses like most things do have. I think there's probably slightly more pluses for drivers like myself, where you're in GP2, you've won races and things like that, and it's sort of, you end up getting yourself into the realms of the Maldonados and things where you do 5 years of GP2 and eventually you win something. But so that hopefully you would get the opportunity that somebody would take the chance and give you more opportunities of a test and hopefully then a race seat in this third car, and it could work. But I think we'd all miss the small teams. Everybody loves plucking for the small team that gets a good run at it. And like we saw this year with Marussia in Monaco, it was a great thing because they were such a small team, and it's a shame that they're not going to be there anymore.
Yeah, definitely a massive shame. Now, I'm also joined in the studio by Phil Duncan, who is the Mail Online's F1 reporter. He's got a question for you, Jon.
Hi, Jon.
Hello.
I was just wondering whether you think there should be, a clearer route to F1. Obviously, we have the feeder series in GP3 and GP2. But do you think, we're seeing more drivers outside of those series being snapped up? Do you think there should be a clearer route to the top?
Absolutely, yeah. I couldn't agree with you more. I think there's way too many series, especially in the lower categories. There's every year almost seems to be a new version of either Formula Renault or Formula Ford or whatever. It's pretty much the same thing, but it comes under a different name. And I agree with you. I think GP3, GP2 is now it's basically outpricing itself. But the only thing it has going for it is that you are there on the Formula 1 weekends, but other than that, the track time is absolutely useless, and the tyres and everything else that you get make the track time even more useless. So in every way, apart from the fact that you're under the noses of the Formula 1 teams, and obviously you get to run on the tracks and things like that the Formula 1 weekends run on, that's about it. But when you think of the World Series and things like this, where you get lots of track time, you're the main event there's still huge crowds that go, you get some really good tyres, you've got similar systems now to what Formula 1 use. Thankfully GP2 are next year going to bring in DRS, which makes it a little bit more apparent to Formula 1, but that's about it. I think you're quite right. I think there needs to be a much more streamlined direct route. You get fuller grids, better quality of drivers. It won't turn into who's got the checkbooks and things like that. Teams will have to choose at least one good driver, that's going to represent them well.
And obviously there has been quite a battle for yourself to make sure you get those drives. Now, somebody that's obviously working with the younger generation of motorsport, I'm joined in the studio by JP. He's from Student Motorsport. I believe he's got a question for you as well.
Hi, Jon.
Hello, how you doing?
Yeah, good evening. I'm good. How are you?
Oh, very well, thanks.
Yeah, as you were saying, I'm all about helping people achieve their goals and get to places, whether that's students or drivers or whatever it is. I believe, progression is everything. Over the last few years, perhaps, that we've seen GP2 running, there's 18 or so drivers had the chance to get through to Formula 1, but we've never really seen that many have a drive, perhaps one or two. But do you think there's anything that GP2 should be looking at immediately for next year, other than the supercar series, that can help people like yourself make the jump or create a clearer bridge?
I think the best solution for GP2 actually ties up with Formula 1 at the moment. And I believe all that prize money that they've got from the TV revenue, if they delegated 20 million of that or something, which in relative terms is quite small, and they spread that across the GP2 teams to bring their costs right down, then it would make the GP2 teams not have to turn to these drivers that come year after year after year with, 1.5 million, 1.7 million, and then it makes life very difficult for people like me, where you sort of basically you're waiting on the scraps of drives, when people either just do a really bad job and they get asked to leave, or people can't afford to pay anymore, sponsors drop out, things like that. And I think that's something that they should look at, because at the end of the day, the drivers that have come through in recent years, well, apart from, Grosjean, Hulkenberg, Hamilton, Perez, I guess, to an extent, apart from those sorts of guys, the people that have come through have normally just been what's known as the pay drivers, and that's quite a shame. There's a lot of good quality drivers that have been through GP2, but sadly they're either in the third or fourth year, and it's sort of expected of them to win. But I think they can really help the GP2 bring the cost down just by. I think the top teams, because they are selfish, and they can be, I think if they just released a little bit and gave back to the lower series, that it would just improve the whole system, and there'd be a lot better quality drivers coming through.
Now, obviously, it's all sort of hot topics at the moment as to what will and what won't happen. Just finally, Jon, before we get on to what's going to be happening with your future, what do you think of this Caterham auction to get them to Abu Dhabi? Do you think it's a good idea or a bad idea?
That's a difficult question. I mean, obviously they're clutching at straws, to be fair. I mean, they've got to try. I mean, at the end of the day, if they get them and Marussia don't, it's about $10 million or whatever in prize money. So I can fully understand why they're doing it. I think it's quite cheeky of them to call on the public. I mean, that they've sort of put themselves in this situation, but. Yeah, it is cheeky. I think we'll leave it at cheeky.
Okay, just looking ahead for 2015, what is the plan for yourself?
We'll see. Things are in motion, but it's it's like it's silly time of the season now. You're talking to everybody trying to put wheels in motion, but we're hoping to try and make a step up, whether it's some sort of testing role, or if not, like I did Le Mans this year and things like that. So there's options, sort of LMP2-ish and along those routes, but obviously the dream is still alive, and we're going to chase it for as long as it is alive. But you do have to be realistic as well. So we're sort of wearing two hats at the minute, and we'll see which one it comes to probably by January.
Fantastic. Well, thank you for joining us, and we do wish you the best of luck and hope that dream does eventually happen.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Thanks. Now, it's obviously there's so much talk, isn't there? But let's home it all in and talk about Abu Dhabi. Can Lewis do it?
I've been saying all year that it will come down to double points, and because that's the way F1 is, it's controversial. Yeah. The person who wins a title will win it on double points. So under that premise, no. I think Rosberg will. But either way, it's going to be interesting. I mean, I know the double points has come under for a bit of scrutiny, and I fully understand that. But under normal circumstances, I think Lewis would have had to finish sixth if Nico wins. Now he has to finish third, so it's going to make the race more exciting. So for that, let's look forward to it. It should be a really good race.
I definitely think it's the distraction that Formula One actually need, isn't it? When it actually gets to Abu Dhabi, there's so much of this disappointing financial talk that's happening just for that sort of moment in time. It really will be what Formula One is about, and it really will be down to the knuckle, won't it? It will be down to the wire and down to the racing. And to be honest, I think Nico is going to do it as well. What do you think, JP?
Well, finishing on a high is the main priority, I think. If you'd have took away the double points thing, I think I would have said Lewis would have done it, but it's too close to call now.
It is too close to call. It's exciting, though. I definitely think that's exciting. It's a nice thing. It is a nice thing to talk about, that actually it is this really exciting sort of scenario. Now, just quickly looking at Verstappen, we saw him again on Friday in Brazil, perhaps not having the easiest time out on the track. And looking to his season for 2015, obviously, again, it's that hot topic, isn't it? He's been brought in because, as somebody representing Red Bull, he is a target, isn't he, who represents everything that Red Bull does in terms of youth. Do you think actually he is going to be successful next year?
I think yes. Toro Rosso is Red Bull's junior team. There's no way that someone as big as Red Bull would take a punt on a guy who they don't think is going to be very good. We've seen drivers progress through Toro Rosso, such as Ricciardo, who's done excellent this year at Red Bull. Vettel, obviously he started at Toro Rosso, and now he's a full-time world champion. So they've obviously got form for bringing in good drivers. It's not a publicity stunt for me, and I'm really excited to see how he gets on.
Yeah, it's certainly exciting. I think that's a nice aspect of the sport as well. That is an exciting step. Now, JP, do we think Alice is going to get to Abu Dhabi? That is the question.
Well, it was news to me today. So, as a friend that's worked with Alice in F4, it would be nice to see her progress. I'd be elated to see that happen, and see another girl in the sport. But there's too many unknowns. We don't know enough at this stage, but I'm just crossing my fingers.
Yeah, I think it's fingers crossed. I think the only unfortunate thing is, even if the money's there, this super licence, like you mentioned, the chances are that might not come through, and that is an issue that she mentioned. They don't come through that quickly, do they? No,
they're not that easy to obtain either. So, yeah, it's another element. I mean, Caterham have got to raise another £1 million in 48 hours as well. That's another element. So, yeah, it's all up in the air. But like JP said, I hope that hope she makes it.
I know that Bernie said the begging bowl thing, but actually, you know what? It is, again, from all this negativity, there's little bits of positivity coming out, and I think it really is. It's that little bit of team spirit with Caterham that might, that little push. It will be fabulous to see them get there on the back of fan support, won't it?
Yeah, absolutely. That's why, although it's they're in a difficult position, I think it's a great thing that they're doing in terms of the fans can get involved. So if the fans are essentially seeing a car on the grid that they funded, that's quite a good thing for the sport, I think. Like you say, when there's been a lot of negativity around it, which is such a shame because the on-track action has been excellent this year. So yeah, let's hope that Caterham can make the money, but I think it's going to be tough.
Certainly is. Now, I wish we had all the answers here for you. I wish at the end of this we could tell you what teams we're going to be in, whether Caterham would make it, is Alice Powell going to be driving, where Jenson Button's going to be, and, well, are the teams going to survive until next year? Is it Sauber and Lotus that are going to be there next year? But to be honest, we've sat here for an hour and we haven't solved one of those scenarios. That just shows what a pickle Formula One is in at the moment. But obviously Abu Dhabi coming up and some real exciting racing, and the question will be, are you going to be watching Formula E? Well, I hope so, because I think it's a series that is going to be progressing. Well, until next time, it is goodbye from myself here in the studio, and Phil and JP. Thank you so much for joining me. And as I said, until next time, we will see you then.